I think I first understood that we had Huguenot connections when I was quite small. It was something I knew my dad was involved in. I don't think I knew what a Huguenot was, but I knew the word. I knew my dad went once a month to be at a meeting of a thing called the French Hospital. I knew that was something to do with Huguenots. And then in 1985, the Museum of London put on an exhibition about Huguenots, which I was taken to. And I understood that it was something to do with our family. But it was only in later years, bit by bit, that I found out what that was and learned a bit more about the Huguenots and the history of my family and began to understand more about what they went through. I think that's something I'm still learning, really. It's not something you can take in all at once. My family have a huge amount of objects and all sorts of things that relate to the family story, and I think that's important for all of us because it gives us a real link back to the people who make up our family. I think my favourite object is the Huguenot doll, which is a beautiful doll showing the uniform of a child at the French Protestant school in London. That was given to my father some years ago now, but is now in the Huguenot Museum.
Our family fled to England in 1568. The Duquesnes were Calvinists in what is now the Low Countries, and at that time Spain had taken over what is now northern France and the southern Netherlands and imposed the Spanish Inquisition. You either fled or you were condemned. 11,000 were executed, 50,000 fled to this country, of which the Duquesnes were members. When we arrived in this country, it was quite difficult because the natives, the people who were here already, did not want us here. But over time and through support from the government and from the Huguenot community, we established ourselves as within the cloth trades, within the City of London. Our family has really always been involved since that time in business or in the management of land, right the way through to the present day. So I think that's about 12 generations or so. And I myself am an accountant today, and I see a group of people in my ancestors who worked hard and they lived very integrated lives with their faith, with their family, and with their businesses. And they became successful, but they were great. They contributed to the life of this nation.
I didn't know my grandmother because she died when I was 3. And I'd never really, I wish I had asked my mother, but you're not interested in a person you don't know. But I did know that she had been born and brought up in Middle Street in Deal. So I started looking into it, and I met somebody who'd been doing research into the family because she had a family Bible dated something like 1623. I do know that there was a Pettit, which is my grandmother's maiden name, who was governor of the La Providence. So, you know, that was a Pettit, we're Pettits, and also one of the Congregationalists at the Huguenot Chapel is Anne Oakley, and she was the archivist at Canterbury Cathedral for 30 years. And there's nothing she doesn't know. She has translated old wills in Latin for me about the Pettits. And I said to her recently, can I really link it? Am I really a Huguenot? She said, I would think you are. I feel very proud of the Huguenot connections because of what the Huguenots brought to this country. In fact, France's loss was our gain because they brought initially wool weaving, silk weaving. We have so much to thank them for. Some of our best silversmiths were Huguenots. The name that comes to mind, one of the most famous, was Paul de Lamery. They brought art, they brought culture. I mean, their effect on this country is phenomenal. And I was told recently that probably 1 in 6 of us has got Huguenot blood.
My Huguenot ancestry has been part of my life since I understood. I can remember my father being elected a director of the French hospital, I think in 1947. So we've always had this connection, and it has been something that we have been proud of, working for the community. And it's also a means of identity. You know, I feel immensely proud that I can actually pick up a family tree and go right back and see when we left France and why we left France and what we've done since then. The Duval family, the first Duval was a Jean Duval at the French hospital in 1777. Since then, there have been 21 Duval directors. My son, when he was elected in 2000, became the 21st. So we've had a long connection with the French hospital, although not going right back to the beginning. We are, as far as I know, as the French hospital, the only organisation of this type, not just in this country, but in the world. I don't know of another charitable organisation run by Huguenots that actually provides accommodation for people of Huguenot descent.
My first memory of the French hospital was going to visit my grandmother, who lived in flat 24. And I really then didn't know a lot about my Huguenot ancestry, but my mother had updated the family tree. And when I started visiting my grandmother and learnt of our association with it, then obviously I looked into it further. We've had one ancestor who lived in St. Luke's in London in the 1700s. And when my grandmother fell on hard times, they were there to help her. It's an organisation that a lot of people, surprisingly, still don't know about. But if you are of Huguenot descent and you need help, they're there to pick up the pieces. I'm immensely proud of the French hospital, and I'm very grateful to be part of it. In the past, and indeed for me personally, they've been our salvation. The reason I'm proud of my French ancestors is that they were prepared to sacrifice everything, and indeed they did, for what they believed in. I know that my ancestor, Alexander de Berneville of Blois, escaped France in 1685, concealed in a wine barrel, came over to Spitalfields, and the rest, as they say, is history.